The San Antonio Spurs were obviously not a great team in the first year of the Victor Wembanyama era, as they only totaled 22 wins while finishing with the second worst record in the Western Conference. But there are more than enough reasons to believe that the losing won't last much longer in San Antonio. Franchise centerpiece Victor Wembanyama lived up to all the hype, winning Rookie of the Year in such a dominant fashion, while also becoming the first rookie ever to earn first-team All-Defense status. First and foremost, the Spurs will get immediately better by extending Wembanyama's minutes from the over 29 minutes per game he played as a rookie. The Spurs were a massive plus 7.5 points per 100 possessions better when Wemby was on the floor, and with all the NBA experience he has yet to gain, it's safe to say that this is actually the worst version of Wembanyama that we'll see in his career, which is a scary thought for the rest of the NBA. Although Wemby definitely can't do it alone. Well, sure, the Spurs already have some foundational pieces currently on the roster in Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, and Keldon Johnson, but they also have a lot of other tools left to improve their roster. Entering this 2024 offseason, San Antonio is projected to have more than $25 million in cap space available, which they can use to add some veteran rotation players this summer. And also, thanks to some trades they made the past couple years, in addition to their own draft picks, the Spurs have accumulated a total of 5 first-round picks, 3 first-round pick swaps, and a total of 14 second-round picks spanning the next 7 years. But obviously, building a stronger core around Wembanyama starts in the upcoming 2024 NBA Draft, wherein the Spurs will have a chance to land a couple of game changers with their 2 lottery picks at number 4 and at number 8. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, we'll talk about 2 prospects who I want to see being selected by the Spurs in the lottery, who I think can be solid additions to this young core built around Victor Wembanyama. So let's get to it. Over the past couple years, the Spurs have always been successful in terms of sticking to their game plan in the draft. They tend to select high IQ players who can contribute on both ends of the floor, who also possess an advanced feel for the game, such as DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Keldon Johnson, Tre Jones, Jeremy Sochan, and Devin Vassell. Although you could say that the defensive strengths that Vassell displayed in college has yet to fully carry on to the NBA level. But the point is, with the franchise now having a massive two-way centerpiece in Victor Wembanyama, who's already an all-NBA defense type of big man, San Antonio has the chance to build a suffocating defense around Wemby, with the emphasis of potentially having 4 players 6'6" or taller with plus size and length flanking him in the starting lineup. So I think it won't be surprising to see the Spurs focusing on finding players with solid defensive abilities plus positional size and high feel for the game in this year's draft, which is why if he's available when the Spurs pick at number 4, I think UConn guard wing Stephon Castle would be an absolute home run fit with the team. Standing 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan, Castle will not only bring defensive energy to the Spurs, but he also projects to bring secondary shot making and complementary playmaking at the NBA level right from day one. First of all, the main appeal of drafting Castle comes with his defensive abilities. As arguably the best perimeter defender from the 2024 draft class, Castle can defend positions 1 to 4 while using his combination of sound footwork, great balance, and positional strength to be able to constantly disrupt ball handlers, force turnovers, block shots, and just really impact defensive possessions both from the point of attack and even off the ball. And for a guy who only stands 6'6", Castle's numbers really stood out while doing all those things, as he averaged 3.9 steals and blocks combined per game in UConn, which ranked in the 79th percentile of college basketball this past season. While for sure critics would say that it was always going to be easier for Castle to make high-energy plays and to gamble on defense when he has the benefit of playing with a dominant defensive center and Donovan Clingan who could clean up mistakes on the perimeter. But looking at it, the numbers actually show otherwise. Well, sure, minutes with Clingan and Castle both on the floor actually produced a defensive rating that ranked in the 99th percentile of college basketball, but looking at it, when Clingan was on the floor but with Castle on the bench, UConn's defense actually dropped to the 83rd percentile, which is still really good, but I think the point is what Donovan Clingan meant to UConn's interior defense is similar to what Castle meant to their perimeter defense. So if Castle was able to complement Donovan Clingan while anchoring a championship defense at the college level, then just imagine how much more Castle's point-of-attack defense would thrive right next to Victor Wembanyama's size and length in the paint, as well as Jeremy Sochan's energy and hustle from all over the floor. While overall, being an elite defender with plus positional size is already enough for NBA teams to rave about Vassell, but the thing is, he also comes into the NBA with a lot of juice on the offensive end. But what's actually interesting is that early in the season at UConn, Vassell actually played more of an off-ball role while scoring mostly in transition or out of cuts to the basket where he's really thrived. But as the season went on and as he gained more on-ball reps, Vassell actually showed that he can also excel as a shot creator. As a freshman, despite not being a shooting threat, Vassell actually ranked in the 74th percentile of college basketball in terms of scoring as the pick-and-roll ball handler. And at 6'6", he was able to get to his spots and finish in traffic in a variety of ways. He has the ability to explode off a hang dribble before getting to the rim, he knows how to quickly decelerate to freeze his defender, and he's very adept at snake dribbling around his man before finishing with a floater or a mid-range jumper. And overall, I'm not at all interested in whether or not he plays as a quote-unquote point guard right off the bat in the NBA, because nowadays, offensive creation can come from every position. Whether Vassell is classified as a point guard or a wing creator, with the shot-making skills he has, especially out of the pick and roll, especially considering he'll benefit from having Victor Wembanyama as a ball screen partner, I see Vassell getting a lot of on-ball reps with the Spurs right off the bat. And besides, Vassell is actually already a capable playmaker. As he got trusted to make decisions with the ball in his hands more in UConn, Vassell showed his abilities as a passer, as overall, he put up 1.28 points per possession as a playmaker, which ranked in the 88th percentile of college basketball. Well, despite his effectiveness as a passer, Vassell's playmaking continues to get slept on because he doesn't really make a lot of flashy passes, but he's actually a quick decision maker who actually makes some advanced passing reads, whether he acts as the primary initiator or even just as a connector. In this play, you can see Vassell taking his man to the post. As he reads all options, it seems like he's either going to force his way to the paint or he's making a swing pass to the weak side. But as soon as he sees the corner defender coming to double him, he instead makes the quick pass to Solomon Ball, who cuts and finishes at the rim. Then in this possession, you can see Vassell running an empty corner pick and roll. He gets blitzed, but instead of making the pass to the roll man, because he sees that the opposing low man has rotated from the corner, he knows that he now has an open shooter on the weak side. So he makes the swing pass, setting up his teammate who drains the three-pointer over the late contest. Overall, a freshman like Vassell, who put up 6.2 assists per 100 possessions with a 2:1 assist-to-turnover ratio, definitely stands out, especially considering he did it for a team that cruised to the national title. But of course, Vassell's NBA ceiling still depends on his outside shooting, which hasn't been good in college. While in UConn, he only shot 26.7% from deep on a very low volume of 2 attempts per game. But I think the weird thing is, Vassell's shooting stroke doesn't look bad and his form looks far from broken. Well, there are some inconsistencies with his lower body and the fluidity of his release, but nothing feels like it needs to be overhauled. Plus, he is a 75% free throw shooter, which indicates he has good touch, and it's also very rare for a player of Vassell's size and caliber to simply not improve as a shooter in the NBA. In fact, guys standing 6'7" and below, such as Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and Buddy Hield, all shot below 30% from deep as college freshmen, on nearly the same number of outside attempts as Vassell, but all actually turned out to be above league average three-point shooters in the NBA. Well, sure, if he's drafted by the Spurs, there might be some overlap about deploying Vassell and Jeremy Sochan together on the floor early on, given Sochan's inconsistent outside shot. But all indications point to Vassell eventually being a passable fit as part of this Spurs score, especially when you already have the advantage of having a center who can stretch the floor himself in Victor Wembanyama. So now, given the hypothetical scenario that the Spurs do select Stephon Vassell with the 4th pick, I think it would be nice to use their 8th overall pick with a bigger wing who can ideally play both the 3 and the 4 spots in the long term as part of a big and lengthy Spurs lineup. Well, for sure, versatile big forwards like Buzelis or Cody Williams could be solid fits here, but in a draft class that's flat in terms of sure top 10 talent, I think buying on the upside of French forward Sochan would be a solid move for the Spurs. Well, Sochan might be considered a very raw prospect, but it also looks like he could be the highest upside player out of this draft class. Standing 6'9" with a gigantic 7'2" wingspan, the 19-year-old forward who played for Cholet in the L&B Pro A of France brings top-of-the-line physical tools, coupled with high-level athleticism and an insane competitive competitive motor. First of all, his motor and his plus positional size really shines on the defensive end. Sochan will come into the NBA as already a solid team defender because he covers a lot of ground and he's got great disruptive instincts, which enables him to get a ton of steals, as reflected by his 1.2 steal per game average. Playing one-on-one defense is a different story though, as Sochan is still kinda jumpy with very unstable footwork when defending in space. But the thing is, Sochan is still able to succeed when guarding quicker players, again, because of how his length and his motor comes into play, as well as the fact that he just really plays hard on defense. In this play, you can see Sochan defending off the ball, and as soon as his man tries to receive the handoff, you can just see Sochan using his length to deny any pass. His man eventually gets the rack, but you can see Sochan constantly trailing him to the corners before going for the hard contest on the three-point attempt to force the miss. Then this time, you can see Sochan defending a bigger player who's facing up on him. Sochan goes in a wide stance which prevents the guy from doing anything off the bounce. The guy tries to use a quick cross, but Sochan uses his long arms to eventually get the steal. Overall, you could just imagine how potentially pairing two plus-sized lengthy forwards like Sochan and Jeremy Sochan playing interchangeably at the 3 and the 4 spots on the wing could just cause the Spurs to create chaos and to swallow offensive possessions. But also, the good thing is, the appeal of drafting Sochan isn't just seen on defense, as he's also displayed flashes on the offensive end. Although if you're the Spurs, you're definitely not drafting him right now to become an on-ball creator right away, as he's still very unpolished in that area. But instead, you're actually banking on his play finishing skills to translate to the NBA early on. And the biggest selling point with Sochan's ability as a play finisher can be seen in his three-point shooting. Well, sure, he only shot 32% from deep this past season on a respectable sample size of 195 attempts, but his percentages were actually weakened by his pull-up attempts. Because when you filter his attempts to just include spot-up threes, Sochan's efficiency actually increases to a solid 36.2%. Sochan also shot 80% from the free throw line, which indicates good shooting touch, and overall he has deep range, consistent shooting mechanics, and a lot of confidence in his stroke from behind the arc. Basically, having that kind of 6'9" guy who can be a catch-and-shoot outlet will be a huge advantage for the Spurs, who've been a bottom 3 outside shooting team during the 2024 season. Well, the shooting on its own is a crucial part of Sochan's game, but what's even better is that because of his ability to hit three-pointers, Sochan forces defenders to make long closeouts, and those closeouts enable Sochan to put the ball on the floor, which leads to him either getting all the way to the rim or making kick-out passes to teammates on the perimeter. Unfortunately though, Sochan is still inconsistent with his shooting percentages out of those drives. He's only shot 56% at the rim and 19% on all two-point jumpers. Sochan's handle is still kinda loose, he still lacks craft off the dribble, and is still not good at making quick counters when faced by defensive rotations when he gets into the paint. But again, as it appears, Sochan's finishing problems arise mostly because of a lack of craft and not due to a lack of touch. So I think he should get better once he gets more on-ball reps in the NBA and once he fills his frame a little bit more. For now though, I think aside from being a floor spacer and a high-energy team defender, Sochan can also be impactful for the Spurs right off the bat, either as a cutter around the basket or as a scorer out of putbacks. As in the French league, he was able to do those things quite effectively, as Sochan ranked in the 58th percentile in terms of points produced per possession out of cuts, and in the 63rd percentile in terms of points produced per possession out of offensive rebounds. And in the NBA, considering the kind of attention that Victor Wembanyama will already be commanding from defenses, I think you could also bet on Sochan having more opportunities to thrive in those areas because of all the space he will get on the floor right away. Well, for all we know, the Spurs front office could have other things in mind. They could actually package one or even both of their first-round picks together with their 2 other second-round picks in this year's draft to be able to maybe land a star-level point guard like Darius Garland or DeJounte Murray to pair with Wembanyama. But the Spurs could also focus on keeping their core on a relatively similar age timeline to Wembanyama so the players within it can grow together. And if the Spurs choose to go that route while also having the goal of winning in sight, I think drafting Stephon Castle and John Sochan and adding them to this current Spurs core could prove to be winning moves for the franchise, especially in the long term. So thank you guys if you've actually made it this far into the video, but who do you want to see being selected by the Spurs if they're gonna keep their 2 lottery picks in this year's draft? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.